Thank you kindly. So, hi. I think you all kind of know me a little bit already now. I'm Dave, and I run a business called Feedback Organic, or Feedback Organic Recovery. And essentially it focuses on seeing the best in waste, and specifically here today, it's this beautiful stuff. This is food waste. And so in a nutshell, or a coriander seed, we collect food waste from restaurants, cafes, hotels, schools and universities, and we convert it on basically any other business that produces organic waste, and we convert it into a nutrient-rich compost, which Bennett is sitting upon at the moment. We then convert empty, unused spaces, like in an urban context, and convert it into a beautiful organic urban farm. This is one of our many plots. And we basically apply that nutrient-rich compost to it, grow produce from it like this, supply it back to the cafes and the restaurants and the communities, and basically green thumb their reputation and get a better understanding of sustainable growing. So basically with this as well, well, in a nutshell, basically what it is, it's great for everyone to get involved, because the cafes and the restaurants, they not only get fantastic organic and like uber local produce, they get a great way of sustainably managing their organic waste as well. And with that as well, we have the schools and the universities not only have those two elements, but they basically also have a great way of engaging and educating their students, and it's just a really fantastic system. So we've basically developed another awesome program, which the guys who organised this actually came down to as well and became 1 Hour Farmers. And basically what that's all around is kind of engaging to see where your food comes from and be part of that closed loop and to be part of that growing change. And so these guys are actually down there, and it's all around like literally seeing like how to grow food that's minute fresh, how to grow it that it's like uber local, organically, and most importantly, sustainable. And I think it's really great to actually finally get to have a say in where your food comes from as well. So this, in a nutshell, in a coriander seed, this is how it works. So we basically invite people to come down to our farms, and they get, it's a win-win. Like we get some help, they get some experience in how to grow fresh, organic and sustainably produced food, and they walk away with fresh produce and a way of basically a step closer to closing their own food loop. It's pretty cool. Basically, the feedback from all of this is, well, I think it's so satisfying hearing the feedback, basically from how much it means to people to actually just walk behind a cedar, to do some transplanting, to do some harvesting, and ultimately go home and basically put this food on their family table. It really means a lot to us as well. And I think the bottom line about what we're kind of hearing from this and getting the feedback around is that we learn from waste and we grow and we share as well. So from this, what I mean, there's a couple of different meanings you can take away from this, but for me, learning is all about learning those sustainable practices and then growing by implementing those sustainable practices where you can, and then sharing those practices to share it with others as well. Like research consistently heralds like an array of benefits of being out in nature with your dog or at the farm or wherever it is, like eating healthily and socialising and connecting with others. And I'm surprised we actually don't do it more. We really should do it a little bit more often. And that may even be some of the reason, some of you are here today. What I'd like to give you a bit of a background is like I certainly asked that question to myself around 5 years ago when I began Feedback as well. So it may help to give you a bit of background about my kind of previous experience and also, where Feedback began. So, as Benny said, it's basically, I come from a 5th generation family of farmers, and it's probably around 2 to 3 hours away from here. And it's basically, I'm not sure whether you know where the Barrington Tops is. It's a beautiful part of the world. But however beautiful it is, it's a little bit isolating now and then, and it was pretty evident to get a social connection as well. So that was one of the reasons why I started Feedback, to basically reconnect with others by basically getting back into town. So having a history throughout my 20s of working in the hospitality industry and seeing this incredible amount of organic waste that is produced, saw it as like a resource and an opportunity at the same time. And it was basically I say basically a lot. It's really incredible. I'm just becoming really aware of that, so give me feedback if you'd like. But from that, it was amazing. Like, you could really see from that compost, like, that was obviously an incredible resource of converting that from waste into compost. But then the opportunity was, for me personally, getting back into town, and that was really cool. So from there, I think basically that was the way I could grow from there. Now, we had this incredible amount of compost, and the idea now was to stick with sustainable. So I had a connection with major suppliers of Hessian waste, and I'm not sure whether you know where you can get major suppliers of Hessian, but it's where cafes roast their coffee beans, and it's just a huge amount. So I didn't put a picture up here, but I pretty much was illegally driving down the freeway with a huge amount of Hessian on the back of my ute. I did that numerous times, and I have so much Hessian. So I bought an industrial sewing machine, this is a couple of years ago, and started to experiment with some different ideas about how to grow sustainably with a biodegradable packaging, which is Hessian. It's made from jute, which is a grass. So this was my first market stall, and it was pretty interesting because you can see there's some really interesting designs up there of like trying to sew everything together and come up with different ways of packaging compost. And I still remember buying my industrial sewing machine, and I think the guys who sold it to me said, now we've all sewed our fingers together. And I was just like, that's the worst thing you could possibly tell someone when you're about to invest in an industrial sewing machine. So from that, it was really funny. It was humorous here as well. We were at a set of markets which was based on food markets, and we were trying to sell compost at a food market. So that was really, really humorous. That's all I can say. So for me, we moved on. Now that we had the pallet for Hessian, we also moved on to another world of waste, which was pallets. And so I wanted to, again, stick with sustainable, about coming up with some 100% repurposed waste ideas about how to grow, again, with this other waste. So we came up with the Selfie, the Organish, the Corner Store, which looks really lovely. It took a lot of time to come up with these, to a degree. And this is the High Rise. And these are all self-watering planter boxes, which really kind of give you full-on sustainable growing options. And this is what we developed a couple of years ago. And I think for me, this is where and others, their growing change came from. And so I feel that, like, now living in an urban context, I now live in the city, and what that's created for me is you really obviously are aware of your limited time and your limited space. So those options were pretty practical with your limited time, and you can be away for a while and they can sort of self-water themselves. But to the point that I'm trying to make is, now living in an urban context, running urban farms, basically you can be a couple of minutes away from an urban farm and really reconnect with where your food comes from, and basically green your thumbs and everyone else's thumbs around there. So that for me was where my love of collaboration and growing together germinated. And there's a hell of a lot of puns on the farms, just to let you know, like, you just can't get away from it. And so we began workshops, all sorts of pallet workshops, all sorts of workshops. We basically began knowledge sharing on the farm as well. And that's where the 1 Hour Farmers came into as well. It's just basically spreading the ideas of how to grow. So now that we've established that, this is one of our plots in the Hunter, and we've got a couple of different plots around like that. And now that we've established this kind of closed loop of growing, it's really time for us. It's time for us to now kind of push it elsewhere. We're really happy with how it's established, it's growing, and it's thriving, so to speak. And I think it's time to bring it to Sydney. And we're really interested in having conversations with councils or with whoever, with cafes, to really reconnect around this, how this kind of closed loop works. So this isn't a great example of how you can basically green thumb your reputation, or you can green up your actual effect on the environment. So for your cafe, for your school, for your university, this is how you can do it. So it's time to involve you guys and your council. So what I'd like to do is really ask the question about, what does it mean to involve this philosophy of this growth mindset, another pun, growth mindset, basically within your cafe, in your school, wherever it is, within your family, within yourselves, within your children. It's basically just giving yourself a massive green thumbs up, and it's about time that we do something about it. So my kind of last statement I'd like to end on is like, let's try and reappraise waste to a degree. And I feel that let's make it like have an opportunity of making it synonymous with repurposing, re-evaluating, revaluing and re-envisioning what waste is. And we can all learn and we can all grow and we can all share from it. Thank you very much. No more puns. Thank you.